This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey, everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio. Good to have you back for another. This is going to be the coolest episode. So if you own a propeller hat, cap, or anything such as that makes you seem or feel or look like a geek, you've come to the right place. I think I'm going to title this thing Google Nerds. Is that okay with you guys?
I like it.
Works. I like it.
Perfect. Joe Hanson's here from Gordie's Garage in Sterling Car Care Centers. Is that all in Roseville, Michigan?
No, well, Roseville and Sterling Heights and Chester, New Baltimore.
Cool.
Yeah.
Secret number 4, when?
No secrets, nothing to hide. Nothing yet.
Okay. Good.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's an honest man.
Yeah.
Who needs some more headache? See, you've lost your hair over this, Joe.
No, it's not a headache. We're having fun.
Cool.
The day we're not having fun is the day we don't do it.
Attaboy. Good attitude. AJ Nealey from Nealey's Auto Service, Edgewater, Maryland. How many stores now, AJ?
5 and holding.
The pilot says to the air tower, we're in a holding pattern.
Yes.
We're
yes,
in a holding. Oh, cool stuff. Well, look, I get invited to Google Teams meetings. I hear people talk about Google Chat. We use docs and sheets and slides and forms, but there's a bunch of other stuff that we don't use that I thought if you guys are embedded deep with Google and you're using it to run a much better company and a tighter team, let's do a Google Nerds podcast. Joe and AJ raise their hands like immediately because I know they're really geeks.
Nerdy.
Yeah. We're very proud because you said Teams. That's a dirty word.
You don't say that.
You don't say Microsoft Teams. It's like iPhone versus Android. This is
I'm sorry. Teams is Microsoft.
Teams is Microsoft. So we are not discussing that.
I'm sorry. I can't believe I had a brain fade there for a
That's
moment.
why we're here, Carm. That's why we're here. We're going to know all this at the end of today.
All right, perfect. All right. So what do you use instead of Teams?
Google Workspace. That's what it's called. Google Workspace is the ecosystem that houses all the apps that you need to kind of really, the way I would describe it is it's like it's the back end of your organization, right? Everything from, Google Meet is the name of the video conferencing software that they use. Gmail is the name of their email service instead of Outlook, right? Another dirty word. Google Sheets instead of Excel, Google Docs, you've got Google Slides, Google Presentations, Google, you've got Calendar, you've got Google Drive. I mean, the list goes on and on. And there's more and more apps that I am starting to use. We're starting to learn more and more of the different apps and items that are available for you to run your operation. And chat is one of them as well. And so there's just, I don't even know, like when this subject was brought up, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know, Joe, how you thought about this, but I don't even know where to start. I really think that like this could be a multi-episodic type process because we could really take a deep dive and really overwhelm people in like the first episode. And I really don't want to do that. I really think that, just kind of have it like a high level overview about what you could take advantage of this workspace today that you could use and implement on day one. And then you could really start diving deep into endpoint user management and being able to control and remotely wipe your tablets and operating systems and Chrome web browsers and bookmarks. And like, it's a lot you can do. So I don't know how you thought of that, Joe, as far as like how the best approach to all this.
Yeah, I think, maybe we just give some examples on how we use it on a daily basis, because that's kind of a more applicable description, I think, on what it is. And I mean, for us, I'll just start on it. So for us, Google, when we started with the Google Workspace, it was mainly for storage of data, right? So we would take all of our invoices and we would scan them at the end of the day, and we would store them in the Google Drive folder. And it was just for that simple in the beginning. We just wanted a place we called it paperless, although that's not even true because there's so much paper with being paperless. It's kind of goofy because you're scanning, right? And there's still invoices and all of that. But so for us, it was at the end of the day, it was about data storage, and we jumped on Google Drive, and that was a long time ago. That was 5,
And
8.
probably the free personal version, right?
It was actually, yeah. It was the free one, right?
You get like so many gigabytes of storage and then that's it, So
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what that was. And then it kind of evolved into, okay, well, I wanted all my teammates to have a Gordie's email and a Sterling Car Care email because I felt it's more professional. If you're going to send an email, it should be the company email. It shouldn't be at Gmail or at Hotmail or some other, whatever it is. It should be that. And that was just for the advisors because they would be the ones that would be communicating with the customers. And then it got to the point where I was like, well, wait a minute. I want to communicate with everyone on the team within the shops. So then it came to the point where it's like, okay, well, everybody needs to get a Gordie's email or Sterling Car Care email. And that was done through Gmail. So then it came to, okay, there's this thing called Workspace. And Workspace, what that allows us to do is collaborate between each other and to store documents and share documents in a very secure environment, and to only share documents with the correct employees and the correct manager. Like managers have access to certain things and service advisors have access to certain things and technicians have access to certain things, in the storage and Drive. Now, everybody in the company, no matter what they do, they all have a company email address. What that allows us to do is to communicate. We do our weekly meetings through Google Meet. They're video meetings similar to this. Just it allows us to share from our Drive. I mean, we could get, like AJ said, we could deep dive, but it literally allows us to communicate. One of the other big things for us is having multi-location, right? You need all of your invoices and all of your documentation to get to one person typically, or to a different department. For example, we have a Google Drive night drop. And throughout the day, each of our locations has a scanner, and on the scanner, there's 5 or 6 folders on the LCD screen. If it's an invoice, when they're done with the invoice, they put it in there and hit that folder, and it scans it to that folder on the cloud. And then our repair orders, same thing. It'll scan it to that. Our estimate copies to that. If there's things that need to go to accounts receivable, they'll scan it to that. And then our controller will go to that drive on the web and pull it all down. So there's no running around, picking up invoices, transferring things in a physical form. It's all right there. So it allows her to do that job very efficiently.
Hey, it's no secret. We're facing a technician shortage, and Napa Auto Care has a solution with the Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program. The program was pioneered by one of our own. Pete McNeil and Master Technician Jake Sorensen from McNeil's Auto Care in Sandy, Utah, realized that the problem of not having technicians available for hire was not going to solve itself and decided to take action and look at a different audience of individuals available for hire. A focus was put on younger individuals with the right passion, desire, and attitude to work in the automotive repair industry. Jake and Pete sought after these individuals and developed a technician apprentice program to give them the training needed to become a successful technician in today's world. The Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program includes a comprehensive 9-stage curriculum that includes a variety of types of training, and they are classroom training videos exclusive to the apprentice program. Now, these videos provide in-depth training from a successful master technician. Also, Autotech classes with instructor-led courses offered through Napa Autotech and Autotech e-learning. This web-based e-learning is designed to target specific training topics. And finally, hands-on learning. The apprentice will apply the skills gained from the classroom training videos, Autotech instructor-led training, and Autotech e-learnings in the shop with the guidance of a mentor. The apprentice program curriculum is competency-based, meaning an apprentice can move through each stage at a pace that best suits them. Most apprentices complete the program within 2 years. Upon completion, apprentices will have earned ASE G1, A4, A5, and AC certifications, adding industry validation to the skills an apprentice acquires. Look, having an apprentice in your shop will ultimately benefit your bottom line as they advance through the program. And in most cases, as the apprentice develops their skill set producing billable hours, you'll begin to see a growth in your gross profit by stage 5. One of the largest barriers to entry for individuals looking to enter the automotive repair industry is the cost of tools. Now, keep your apprentice motivated with an apprentice toolkit. Now, Napa Auto Care has worked with our supplying partners to offer an exclusive comprehensive tool set, including a 4-drawer tool cart for all registered apprentices. Hey, to learn more, members can visit member.napaautocare.com. Joe, doesn't your SMS have the capabilities of doing that for you instead of having to scan?
Sure, you can to a degree, but like in the state of Michigan, we need a signature when customers
Okay,
come in, and
I
so
got it.
the answer is
I understand.
yes, but
Yeah.
we're limited by the law here.
And also to all of your vendors, right? When they drop off parts,
Right.
paper copies, right? Signed pickup return slips. We want a Dropbox for the end of day reports. At the end of the day, all the vendor receipts go in, all the signed invoices go in, all the coupons, whatever they are. Like Joe mentioned, we have a scanner as well, has a shortcut on there. So it's super simple for the advisor. They put the stack in, they hit the button, boop, it's gone. We have the advisor maybe hold on to the paper copy for a month, 2 months at most, just in case you need to get quick access to something for a return or whatever it might be. But after that, we shred everything, right? So it's all housed, in the drive. I would say the same thing. It's kind of, it's funny. Joe and I think very much like when we first met, we're like those power users. We're very trying to, again, being technology driven, trying to stay on top of what makes the most sense and what is going to make the workflow the most efficient possible. And if it's okay, Carm, I'd like to share my screen just to kind of give like a high level overview about what I've kind of shared here. So Google Workspace, again, it's meant for businesses, right? So this is something you have to pay for. It's a per user per month. It's funny, they keep changing the prices. I don't even remember what it is today. There's different levels that you can get to with Google Workspace. I believe we're paying $14 per user per month. So again, there's an investment kind of required for that, but I think the efficiencies you gain out of it easily pays for itself. But at a very high level, this, as opposed to your personal, like this is something I always like to tell people when they're starting to get into Google. You have to make sure that you're logged into the correct account before you start running into issues. So in every Google app that you're using, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see an icon. And this is going to let you know which account you're actually logged into. So for example, I'm in my neelytire.com account. I know in my business accounts, I could go into my personal account and things like that, but I wouldn't have access to Google Admin, right? So that's really step one. Whenever you're inside of an app, and you can always find your apps. If you click the 9 dots in the upper right-hand corner, this is where you find all the apps that you as a user have access to based on your subscription level and things of that sort. So there's a lot of apps in here that really don't even need to be here that we don't use on a regular basis. But the top 9 I put right here. And so this is admin app. So as the business owner, as the primary admin for this account, this is where I have access to create users. And so if I go into the users list here, for example, this is where, anytime we're onboarding an employee, this is where we are creating them for the first time, right? Creating their email addresses, as Joe mentioned. We are giving them permissions to access certain Drive folders. We're giving them access to certain email groups. I can put in their headshot in here, for example, but it's all like Joe mentioned, every employee is going to get an email address with the @neelytire.com domain name. Groups, for example, this is something that we use, for example, let's say, with Kukui, right? Every time a customer is creating an appointment request, we send those appointment request emails to an email address called Edgewater @neelytire.com. Let's say they're making an appointment for the Edgewater location. I've created an email group that is named effectively Edgewater@neelytire.com. And so when I look at this, I can add the members to this group. So all of my service advisors at this location is going to get an email notification letting them know that, hey, look, someone's requested an appointment at that location. So I have all of these groups. So if I want to just send an email to all of my employees, instead of adding every email in that I need to, I just created a group called All Employees @neelytire.com. All of my employees are inside this group. So I only have to send to one email address group, and it goes to everyone inside that. So as you can see in here, all my different locations. So if I just want to email the technicians at the deal location, it's neelytire.com, so on and so forth. So I've created all these different groups. Those that are in the HR seat, for example, they can email HR@neelytire.com. It's going to go to those people that need access to that. And I can even add people outside of my organization. So if I have an outside benefits coordinator, I can add them into these certain groups. So if we're just focusing on email right now, there's a lot of advantages to creating these different groups. So you know exactly where these emails are going, and you have the ability to control who sees what. It's great at a high level, right? Because also too, when it comes to onboarding, you're giving them access to a lot of this information. Also at the same time, if we know we need to terminate somebody, the biggest thing is controlling your intellectual property, right? Like the last thing you'd want to do is someone downloading this stuff or getting rid of it. So actually Google has an app called a Vault and gives you the ability to kind of control what people can and can't download. But if I know someone's getting terminated like that day, I can literally go in there and just reset password. It immediately logs them out of every app that they had access to or logged in at that time. So if they're in Gmail, the Drive, whatever it is, they are immediately logged out of that. So as far as just, protecting your intellectual property, your processes, in customer information, all that stuff, it's a big deal as far as like being able to control all that. Just at a high level inside this admin app, like I mentioned, this is where you create the users. You also create their email address, and, they're going to have of course, their own login with their, at neelytire.com credentials. This is what they would use to log in to all of the different apps that they have access to. If we're on Drive, for example, this is if they have any shared drive that they have access to, this is where they would see all this. Obviously, as the owner, I've got access to all these different shared drives that I've created, but I've created one for each individual location, just for leadership. There's a lot of different stuff that we have kind of going on here that they have access to. I really just want to touch on very quickly, because I know we could just continue to take a deep dive and then I'll take a pause. But back to the drive, right? I agree with Joe. First thing that we were doing as far as being a paperless shop, we were really taking advantage of Drive. I'd say one of the coolest features about Drive is anytime you're uploading scanned documents into Google Drive, it's what we call OCRing every document. It's optical character recognition, and it uses that internal software to actually scan the PDFs and look for text inside of it. So like, for example, if I had a repair order that I was looking, for example, and I'm copying one of my own repair orders. If I just searched in the Drive and I put that repair order number in there, anytime that RO number or that number appears, it's going to show up inside as far as, that number is going to have a hit for inside of there. So if I'm opening this file and I want to look for it, I can go Command F. I can paste that in there as well. And anything that pops up, there it is. There's the number that shows up right there inside that. So I can easily, look up at a quick glance, because it's OCRing every document, because it's looking for a PO number on the vendor receipt for the purchase of those parts. Of course, for the invoice as well. Anything that's associated with that PO number, it's going to pull up. So really quickly, without fumbling through, file cabinets and stuff, it's all right there. Joe and I could just go back and forth, just diving into this stuff. But at a high level, if you just really wanted to look at trying to get rid of paper, that in itself could be a huge first step in just trying to make your operation a bit more efficient.
I just want to second that too, AJ, with the search function alone. I mean, I don't know if you guys recognize what he just did there, but when he put in the search, so let's say that you put in an invoice number in, right? Because for our shops, we use PO numbers, our invoice number when we order parts, right? So if I put in an invoice number to look for a repair order for, customer history or whatever, it recognizes that repair order for one, but then it also looks for that PO everywhere. So if it sees that PO number on a Napa invoice or whoever your vendor is, wherever you ordered it, it pulls that up too. So it's crazy. Even, I don't know if you've ever had a time where you're in your management system and you can't find like a work order that you did something, like this customer name, or it just won't. You can search like repair data, like repair info. It'll pull it up. Google will find it in there. So it's a time saver. It's interesting. Like when you were going through those workflows, AJ, I was talking to Karen, our controller, today, and I said, hey, do you remember, because it was like 2 years ago, they were doing a lot of paper stuff and a significant amount of volume. And I said, can you imagine what it would be like if we did things that way? She goes, I can't even imagine. She's like, I can't imagine even functioning with all the paper and all the invoices. She goes, everything's just on the cloud now. I love it. It's so much easier. She's 30% saving in time, at least so in her workflow process, just by using this workspace.
I have a question about OCR. Is it happening when you're scanning, or when it comes in, are you asking it to do the search on your keywords?
Yeah, it's on the upload to Drive. Once it goes into Drive, it's doing it there. Yep.
And is that a special piece of software, AJ?
Yep. It's built
It's
in.
included.
It's included.
It's built into Google Drive?
Yes,
Yep.
correct.
It's no different than if I opened up Google Docs and I searched for the words Nealey, and it would find every document that would have your name in it. So I see what you're saying. It's just built-in indexing, if you will.
Mhm. It's creating almost like a digital copy. Like, so you're scanning in the actual paper receipt, right? And most of the time that would just be like an image, or, they call it a PDF. But what it's doing is it's scanning it and it's recognizing characters, right? It's putting letters and numbers together and whatever it might be. So it's creating almost like a digital copy of that behind that document. And so that's what you're searching for. It's searching for the digitals. If you get a smudge over the number, it may not recognize it. So that's making sure that you're scanning clean copies. I will say that, because it may not see it. If
Technicians are
grabbing work orders, or, sometimes too, one of the things we see is like the credit card, little receipt that's over the invoice. If it's covering up something on there, a date, of course, it's not going to know. You may not pick up a PO number, whatever that might is. So that can happen, right? So it's just understanding what you need to do to properly scan it, and so make sure you got it all.
As you're saying this, I'm thinking of so many. I can't believe how much we use this environment, the workspace environment. As you're saying that, I'm thinking of all of my vendor files. Like, we don't have any filing cabinets at our shop.
Yep.
Zero.
It
literally, everything is in a shared drive. And that shared drive is applicable to the person that holds that seat for that position. So finance, HR, service manager, technician, it's all there.
Yeah.
Some of the things I think it'd be cool to cover, like on a daily, those pain point things that this solves for us. I just want to give a couple of them real quick. One of them is time off, right? When you start getting 20, 30, 40, 50 people that, or even 5, right? Remembering who asked for time off. I don't know if you remember, we used to have back in the day when I was little, we had this calendar and it was on the wall. Carm probably had this in his past life too.
It was a 52-weeker for the year, right?
Yeah, that just a monthly one. And if somebody wanted time off, what did they do? They didn't even ask you. They just went up to the
scribble it in there.
No, they just wrote it in there. And then you don't even know that they have time off, because you're like running around busy at working, right? We're working. And then all of a sudden you're like, where's Billy? Oh, Billy's got the day off. I didn't know about that. Well, go look at the calendar. I was like, well, I can't even, number one, I can't read what he wrote. But number two, I don't look at that calendar. No one notified me there was a new addition to the calendar. I didn't know about the notification. So for that reason, what's really cool with Google is they have an application called Google Forms. So what we've done is we created a Google form. It's a time off request form. It's got the rules for requesting time off. And then, so they just fill it out. It's really simple. It takes about 10, 15 seconds probably. And then what that does is, as soon as it's submitted, it goes to a Google Sheet, and that sheet sends me a notification, and the managers that need to know about this, Billy Bob has requested time off. And then what they do is they go to the Google Sheet, open it up. Sheets is Excel in that old world, right? They open up Sheets, and then there's a little checkbox, and they check it, and it says time off approved. That, now I know AJ uses an HR application for that, but we use this. It's so simple. And then what happens is it goes to the team calendar. Exactly. So everybody can go to the team calendar, because when they get onboarded, they get the email address, which gives them the ability to be added to the appropriate calendar. So on their screen, on their computer or tablet, we use tablets for all this, they can see who has already got time off. The managers have approved the time off. It sends a reminder somebody has time off. In the weekly meetings that we use Google Meet on a video conference, we have our agenda that shows who's got time off. So we know there's never a time we don't know who's got time off. And if someone says, I requested it, no, you didn't, because it's not in there. And you are logged in through your email at Gordie's or at Sterling Car Care that shows the date, the time, everything, what computer you on, that when you requested that time off. So that's one application. That right there has just, it's amazing, because you have such organization. If you ever want to go back, how much time off did they, are they supposed to have? Did they take? It's all right there. The cool thing about that too is it integrates with other software. That's HR software. So you can pull that data into QuickBooks. You can pull that data into whatever you want, whatever you're using. It's all there. Yep. So that's one really cool application. Another one that's really neat for us is we use the Google Sites. Okay. So your website, like we have Gordies.com or SterlingCarCare.com. So I registered on SterlingCarCare.info. So the info, it's an intranet. When we have our meetings each week, we like to have a lot of issues and opportunities to cover so that we can have productive meetings, right? But we require everybody put them in first, put a bunch of them in there. Or throughout the day, you're working and you think, man, we need to fix whatever. If you don't write it down, you forget about it by the time the meeting happens, right? So there's a little submit button on our intranet, and they submit all their ideas and issues in there. And then when the meeting comes, all those are listed on a Google Sheet. So we just import those into our agenda, and they're all right there, right? It's like a level 10 meeting in the EOS world. And so it's all right there. But the intranet also has all of the critical documents, the MSDS sheets, safety documents. The team calendar is also there. They can see that. Our policies and procedures is in there. Our standing operating procedures, SOPs. How do you do a warranty claim in TechMetric? Well, it's written down. It's all right there. And if it changes, we update it, and it's changed for everybody for them to access right there. That's all in the intranet. So it's like our own little work environment, right? Website for internal. The cool thing about that as well is if anybody were to go to sterlingcarcare.info, it will say no access because they're not logged in with a Sterling Car Care email. So nobody else can get to it. Nobody else can see it. So we love that. So that's just two things. I don't want to go too long, but those are two things that we've used this workspace to solve problems with: communication, the dissemination of the information, and that time off request form. That two examples right there. They're completely changed the way we do business.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can share my screen there, Carm, but just as an example, I brought up that calendar, right? Because just as Joe mentioned, this is where I get to see who has time, and each color is a different location, right? So Jeremy, he's out all day, and this is the shared. This is the shared calendar for the Edgewater store. And I actually have a TV, broadcasting that calendar in the shop at every location. So when the slides go through and that location comes up, they're going to see who's got off, like no questions asked. Over here, for example, Andy's birthday, that's on the 25th, that's the deal location, right? So each color, every location has its own calendar. And that's the way that it's got all that there. That's big, right? Back to the email, right? Which is really like, I'd say one of the number one tools that you're using too on a regular basis. That's one of the tabs that's like required to be open for every service advisor. I'll go ahead and share that screen real quick too. But what I love about what's different with this compared to your regular Gmail is that you do get this ability to create chats. You have, internal chats that you can have one-on-one or group chats with different employees at different locations. So this is huge that you can just have the intra chat. It's kind of like Slack, right? And then Spaces, for example, is another one that we've kind of created here where, for example, I've created one called Service Advisors. So all the service advisors have the ability to chat with one another if it's based on issues or best practices, whatever it might be. I love this one with my operations chat where all the technicians are in here. So if we have technicians that are like have a head scratcher of a vehicle, they get the ability to kind of chat amongst themselves about how they would diagnose or problem solve a certain vehicle, whatever it might be. A lot of great info. And then of course, we've got one just for all of the employees that they get to kind of banter back and forth with. This chat functions great. And also too, as part of our onboarding, that we do with every employee, for example, we make sure that everyone has to have the Google Workspace account on their phone. Now that employee gets the ability to easily swipe from their personal Gmail to their work Gmail. But part of that onboarding process is everyone gets it on their phone and they get it on their work tablet, right? So there's no excuse. They didn't see the chats. They didn't see the calendar. They have access to that at all times, and we get them habitually looking and keeping an eye on those things at all times. So there's a lot of engagement from all the employees using it. So that onboarding is really critical, right? That you're educating your new employee that may not know all this technology about what's available, how to use it, and using it regularly and just participating in it. And it's huge. But the big ones, Gmail, Calendar, Drive, I'd say like those are definitely the top three. Just kind of looking at the other ones we've got here. I use personally Keep. That's a huge one. That's for like where I put all of my to-dos, all my notes, whatever I might need to do on there. Of course, inside Drive, you get to create sheets, docs, all sorts of other stuff. And so with that, not to take a deep dive here, they just kind of came out with a nice function that's on here. If you create a to-do list inside of a Google Doc, you get the ability to assign a task or that to-do or that checkbox to a specific employee inside the organization, and it's upon them to complete it. So when it comes to accountability on certain things, whether it's onboarding an employee, terminating an employee, just training somebody, it's on them they're assigned the task, they see the task, and it's on them to check. It's really slick. I just noticed that.
Yeah, we're playing with that right now, AJ. So like when we do our weekly meetings and, you got your to-do list, right? So if let's say, a hoist is broke. Okay, well, who's going to call the hoist repair guy? Okay, Mike's got to do that. So at Mike, and then call. And so then it creates a task for him right in there. So then when we get together next week, we just look at it. Did you do it? If you did it already, it'll be checked off. I don't want to say it holds them accountable, but it just reminds us to, get these things done. But we don't have to talk about it after, because we can just look and go, okay, he did it. I don't have to, hey, did you call the hoist guy? Did you? No, it cleared it. It's gone. And that's a really cool function.
Joe, where do you assign that task? Is it in that Google Doc, or is it
whatever application you're in? You just you can create the task right there for them.
Yeah, show us how to do that. I think there's many of us out there that are using docs, but we may not know of that extra feature or capacity there.
And it may not be in the free version. It might only be in the Workspace. I'm not sure.
It could be. For example, I have a termination checklist here. And so what's nice is in a Google Doc, you can create checkboxes next to it. So before you could just be like, okay, I did that, did this, whatever it might be. But now if you create a checkbox just to the left, you see this little plus check mark over here. So I can assign this task. So I know, okay, let's say I want Devin to do this. I could assign this to him. I can tell him the due date in which to do that, and then, save that. And so he would get that alert. He'd know he'd have to do that. So that's a very nice feature. So
go into since you're up there, go into into the spaces. And so let's say that you're having like your service advisor one. So if you're in there and there's things you're collaborating about, I'll give you an example. So we're trying to increase our tire sales last month at the shops, right? We had one real strong shop that saw a lot of tires, and then the other two were good, but we wanted improvement. So we've created a service advisor chat, and we were able to put the Google sheet in there with the status of where we're all at. So each day the manager would go in and they would update so like go into one of your chats area. Yeah. And then so you can do the files, see that? So it's got chat file up to your left there.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So you can add files to the chat that you want to appear in there, and you can also add tasks within that. But what's really cool about creating these spaces on an app, like how it's applicable, is you get that camaraderie going amongst your guys, right? So each day they would update their stats from what we were doing last month to increase tire sales. They would update their stats, and we had a little promo going. So whoever had the biggest growth based on the percentage of cars that they do, they got a $50 gift card for the advisors, and then we're going to do barbecue actually tomorrow for the winning shop, right? But you should have seen the camaraderie they had going back and forth within that environment, right? Every day the sheets would be updated, the graph would update, and okay, so you could see who was growing faster at what shop, and it just created that environment of growth, right? It was a really cool thing. And then they could see with the shared files on what shop was growing and how many tires they had, how many they had in the past. It was really good. It was something that I'm thinking, how would I have done that 5-8 years ago when I didn't have this tool? What would I have done? I don't know. I guess I would have went to each shop and I would have said, hey, this is where they're at. Or maybe we would use some other type of chat thing, but it wouldn't have been all encompassed within our organization. It wouldn't have been secure in there, and it wouldn't have been ours. That was an application. It worked great. And we had one shop had 190% tire growth in sales in a month. And was that because of the platform? No, but it helped. It helped to do that because we built that camaraderie with them.
It builds bragging rights.
It does. And wait till tomorrow when the pictures come out in the barbecue. They'll be seeing the other shop eating. They're not gonna like that.
That's so cool, Joe. In spaces, can you add people from outside of your world or your network, say a supplier?
Yep.
You can if you want. Yeah, you just got to check. There's not to deep dive, but when you create the space, you have to set it so you can allow external users. If you create the space, you can't go back and allow them later. That's all. Yep. But that's just a little thing.
It's more of a safety. Yeah. Also, too, like when you're setting up those Google groups, right? Like you get to set the permissions as far as like, okay, can anyone access this, or is it only people inside the organization? Anyone with a link? Is it, do they have to be invited? So there's different in that Google admin portal. You get to create and set all those parameters and permissions. Yeah, back into a deep dive there too. Like if you really wanted to control, if someone's logged into their work account in their Google Chrome web browser, that's really the other app, by the way, of course, that they're using, right? internet, right?
Yeah.
So we don't say Internet Explorer, we say Google Chrome. And so we want to make sure they're logged in with that. But you can, even then you get to create all the bookmarks that they have access to. But if you really wanted it, you could just restrict to these are the only websites they have access to, right? So you get to kind of really control and dive in and make sure that they are using your work login only for work activities. So,
Guys, I got to ask a critical question. I'm impressed with what I see so far. And in many cases, you talk to former technicians, people that worked for us in the independent world, and you'd say, so what was the problem there? Communications, transparency, all that stuff. It seems to me that this has really tightened your organization.
It has. It has. Almost too tight, to be honest. There's so much. I mean, honestly, it's like we have two different brands. We have the Gordie's brand and Sterling Car Care, but I treat them as one. They all collaborate on the same platform with different names. They all talk. I mean, it's on there. They're chatting every day. I mean, they're going back and forth. What's really awesome about it is these guys have such, like our team, they have such good ideas for things to improve the way the shop should run. But then someone else will add on to that great idea that they are collaborating about on there just throughout the day. And they've come up with some things that have just completely changed the way that we do things, that stuff that I would have never thought of. And I'm just watching these conversations go, and I'm like, that makes total sense. I don't know why we never did that before.
right.
And then we implement it. So it just creates such congruency and the improvements that we get from it. And you know what else it allows is when someone does a great job, it's such a great, easy way to just say, hey, man, so-and-so just rocked it this month, or so-and-so hit 80 billable hours, or so-and-so just sold another, a $15,000 job, or, hey, we got 3 Google reviews at Gordie's today, 5 stars, man. Way to go, Joe. Way to go, Larry. And then they're like, I want that. So it builds that recognition, and it makes it so easy to do that.
Yeah, we had that example just yesterday where they were just trying to determine best practices on how to handle something. And I wasn't even involved in it, and they were just chatting back and forth on a workflow process or time management stuff that they're dealing with. And some people use a dry erase board. Some people do this, it's just, and I just love that collaboration because there was, especially when you get to multi-location, this is really where it comes into play, because you've got people that have probably never even met face to face, even though we try to put on these all team outings, but it's as if they do know each other. And to have, like you mentioned, that camaraderie, the best practices, the improvements on processes. And it's not coming from me. It's coming from the resident experts, that are on the field, on the front lines, doing it, day in and day out. And I'm going to listen to them all day.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, just another example of that when you were talking there, AJ. So we had to write and improve many of our SOPs. And everybody has, as we know, different strengths, right? Some people are really good at selling tires. Some people are really good at doing national accounts. Some people are really good at, whatever it is. So with Google Docs, many of you know, you can just create the doc, right? Put it in the shared folder and ask your team, all right, write the SOP for how to process a tire HQ for a Goodyear tire, right? And they write it down. And then someone else can log in there and go, oh, no, do it this way. And you're sitting there on the screen watching them create the document, making edits to it right there on the screen. And it's like, this is getting done like this. This is crazy. And from people that, like you said, AJ, people that are actually know what they're doing, they're on the front line. Like, I can't write that.
I can't write that.
I could write it, but then they'd have to change it anyway because they're doing it every day like they are. They know what they're doing. Now, I have input, but at the end of the day, they're the experts at it.
They are the experts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, that goes back to the thought that I had about an incredible way to contribute, of course, to build these SOPs, to update them. To your point, if somebody comes up with a great idea and it's a fleeting moment and it goes away, it's done, and you didn't have the vehicle like you do with either Chat or Spaces to be able to contribute and have that be my God, it's there. And, if somebody doesn't look at it, then shame on you. But the person is, if you will, it's the idea becomes legacy. It's there. And that person can then be brought back to say, hey, listen, last week you typed in a great idea. We need to develop that. Think about it. It could really help our business instead of it being just a thought. Love that part. So guys, the learning curve, I did not have any idea how big Workspaces is. Pretty impressed with where you guys are with it. Did it take you, a year or a couple of years ongoing? Where did you learn it on your own? Did you learn it together?
On my own, really.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
nerd. I watch a lot of
Yep.
YouTube
Yep. A
videos,
lot of
and
YouTube.
I'm very process oriented. I'm very process oriented. I like things to be. I'm very lazy, so if things are automatic, I don't have to think a lot. That's why I love this.
Oh,
Maybe lazy is not the right word, but I'm efficient. I like things to be efficient, and I don't like to have to do things twice. Think twice about them. That's what really interested me in this. Is if I can create workflows, I can create communication pathways. If I can do all that, I can document things, I can store things, I can quickly search for things. It just makes my life easier. So for that reason, I get very interested in this. I would research it. So you're asking about the learning curve. I think it's going to really depend on how hungry somebody is and how motivated or what drives the person. For us, we're learning every day. I don't know about you, AJ. I mean, they're always coming out with better
yep.
ways to do it. I almost feel
Yep.
behind a little bit, to be honest, because they're creating so many better ways to do things with this workspace. But to get to a functional level, I think is maybe a good question. How long will it take you to get functional with it? I think you'll be functional with it right away because everybody knows how to use a chat platform. Everyone's using different chat platforms out there on their phones. This is no different. Right away, everybody knows how to use email. You're just putting it in one environment now. Everybody knows how to write a document, right? Everybody's already doing that. So now you're just putting it into one environment. I think right away, but to get into the deeper things, it might take a little time, but you can also hire people to do that and teach you, which I recommend.
Yeah, I was going to mention too, if you're getting into Google Workspace, they do have like onboarding specialists,
Yeah.
right? And it's funny, they were a sales rep trying to get me to get to the next tier. And like, oh yeah, and we've got this, they call them like a Yoda team or something. They get in there, they're the gurus, they'll teach you how to do all this and that. It's like, well, where were you guys before? Now that I've been,
Right.
I've been a paying member for so many years. And so anyway, I got them I wanted to really take a deeper dive into endpoint user management, how to control the devices that I own, right? So I'm giving tablets out, right, to employees. So I want to be able to remote wipe them. I want to be able to install the apps ready to go. So when they come in on day one, now I'm not done that project, but that's like where you can go with this type of software in this service. So if you decide to go with Google Workspace, they do have that team in place to get you up to speed on the basics. And they'll dive into whatever. They have experts in all different areas, but they want you to be successful at this, right? So they have a team of experts to kind of get you up and running with all of it, definitely.
So I got an email, even though I am not a heavy Workspace user, and it said App Sheet and Google Workspace, new integrations to simplify work. It says automate tasks and digitize process to make work simpler and faster. Start for free. It says it just got even easier to create time-saving apps with App Sheet. What's that?
So on a high level, that is just the integration, the ability to integrate with the workspace. And I don't know how many, there's probably AJ showed that one screen where it showed that was just a few. And
Yep.
those are all Google apps, but
Yep.
there are so many different companies that
All the
integrate with it.
extensions.
You can create some
Yeah.
dashboards. You could do whiteboards. You can do, just name it.
Yep.
You can do it. Mail merge, email merge. It's infinite.
Yeah, I was going to mention on that too. Like, for example, Google doesn't have an integrated app to manage email signatures, which is like really surprising to me. And again, I wanted to add like another layer of professionalism, being able to handle all and distribute all the email signatures for every employee. So I found another service from the Workspace store, I guess you can say. It's an extension that integrates with all the Google Workspace and then allows me to create and push these email signatures to all the employees. Oh, it's slick. And it just like adds another level of professionalism. There's like thousands of apps potentially out there that integrate with Google Workspace and somehow, whether it's templates for docs, sheets, or slides, whether it's an email add-on to help with template. Like there's so many things. If there's an issue you have with something, if Google doesn't natively have it, someone else out there does. And a lot of the stuff can be free too. And it's funny, I'm just clicking up in my extension in the upper right. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff that just integrates with either Google Chrome or with other workspace items that are on here that just natively work with it. And then now they're starting to also integrate with AI. So for example, I was working on a Google sheet and I had a really weird, formula that I had to create, but it saw I was copying and pasting certain things. And I got to like the third line. It's like, oh, is this a formula you want? And it was a really obscure formula. I mean, it was like, I don't know how it knew that's what I was looking for. Like I was just copying a certain text from a line item, and it knew that's what I was looking for. And it just, oh my goodness, it saved me days probably worth of work.
This nerd needs help. I get it.
There's stuff out there. It's amazing. The one item that I'm currently working on is Google Looker Studio. And this is a way of taking data, and Joe and I love like creating scoreboards and dashboards and stuff like that. It's beyond my means. I'm working with someone else to help me create this, but I'm like really excited about this because this is like the feedback loop that I like to present.
Why you holding out? You didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm working on it. So this is TBD as far as when we go live, but yeah, it's Google Looker Studio is like, so Microsoft has a version called Power Business Intelligence is like their form of it, but Google has theirs called like Looker Studio or Data Studio. So
let me try to bring this semi to a conclusion, knowing that my brain hurts right now. And because if you remember what AJ said in the beginning, how deep should we go? How wide should we go? This could be an episodic thing. You're so damn smart, AJ. You had you had us figured out from the beginning.
We're constantly learning too. Like Joe said, like they're always updating stuff, coming up with new items. But
so guys, I want to show you a piece of paper. Now, if you're listening through audio, you can't quite necessarily see it, but here's my notes from today. And you see all them in yellow. I had highlighted docs, sheets, slides, forms, drive, calendar, chat, meet, mail, site, spaces. And there's one here that you guys didn't cover that I thought maybe you would. Voice? No?
Oh, yeah.
We don't use it. Might have it for like a, yes, you can integrate that and have like a VoIP phone system with it. We don't use it. Yeah.
So we do use it once in a while. We use phones from David Boyd. He's awesome with phones for automotive. He's legit, like the best guy to use. He integrates with a lot. He's the guy, but
he's been on the show.
Yeah, he's awesome. But we use it once in a while. If we got to make let's say I'm on the road, right? And it's been a while and I didn't want to use my cell phone. So I just use my Google Voice line and call a customer so they're not getting my cell phone number. But you can do that. I will say one other thing. So Word docs, Excel docs, PowerPoint presentations, you can import those into Drive and it converts them seamlessly right into what the new technology with Google.
Google's
Google.
So if you bring them into Drive, it does it.
And then if you need to, and if you need to, which I never do, but if you needed to export it as one of the Office files, you can export it as an Excel.doc or a PPT. You can PowerPoint document. You can export it in that format as well. Yeah.
Amazing.
So no excuse like, oh, I love my Outlook. Oh, I love it. They got a way to bring all that into the Google Workspace if you'd like.
Yep.
I'm stuck with Outlook, guys.
See, that just said it all. You said stuck. Who wants to be stuck?
Yeah.
Stuck is as if you want to get out of it.
You're picking on me.
I mean, I know. That's okay, though.
We do it all the time.
We
hear it all the time.
I know what I need to do is you need to teach me more about Gmail that probably does the same thing that Outlook does for me, but I can't figure it out. I want to go over to Gmail so bad, but I've been an Outlook guy for ever since day one.
Well, you can use Gmail with Outlook, so
I do.
You want to keep that.
I call them both up. Yeah. Anyway, interesting stuff. So, guys, so interesting. Love this. You guys are running better businesses because you have gotten into the, if you will, the nerdy side of let the computer do the work. Let's integrate. Let's communicate. Let's talk. Is there a part 2 here that we could do a deeper dive on?
I wonder if maybe I would just actually really ask the audience that maybe watches this, where they're because as Joe and I and everyone else always likes to say, it's like, I don't know what they don't know. I mean, I know what I know, but I don't know what you don't know. So I'd like maybe if there's some feedback or comments or like, hey, could you expound on this? You know, how does this work? That whatever that might be. And maybe we generate like, a top 10 of questions or maybe show me your workflow for this. And we could just go through it. We just really a show and tell. I think we've just done a lot of talking. If we could just go through a workflow about, okay, this is how we do our end of day process. This is how we scan documents.
That's what I get a lot, AJ.
Yep.
I get that question a lot as people say, well, what does your file structure look like when you scan your documents into Drive? Where do you put it? How does that structure look? I get that all the time.
Yeah. And that's the beauty, just back to the OCR piece. You don't have to name every file, make an individual PDF for everything, because it OCRs everything. You just dump it all in there. You need to search for it later. You just search for it in Drive and it'll just pop.
Maybe we go into that a little deeper, because I think that could be a huge time savings tool. But here's what I think about this episode. It's kind of like getting an email. It's going to watch a YouTube video and looking at a cell piece. You too could be more efficient if you did it like this and this. And says, oh, I love it. How do I get started? And then you go dive into a deep hole and you say, I want to do this, but I can't seem to get out. So now I have to study. I think what you did in this particular episode is integrated how you guys have used Workspace in a shop world environment, and how you've built a, if you will, cohesive company with it.
It's scalable.
And it didn't happen. Yeah. And it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
So I think what we have is, I always love to look at a piece of software and say, okay, I'm starting from A, I got to go to Z. But if somebody could show me what JKLMNOP looks like, then I know that there's some great light at the end of the tunnel, and that there's so much more I can do with my little startup, my little stumbles. There's a great place we got to get to. We got to work hard at it. I think you gave us a little bit of vision here. I think you did. I think it was great. Wow. Thank you so much. I can't wait to go out and do something now with this, because I'm not into workspaces. I think I am, but I'm not into it as seriously as you guys. So thank you so much, AJ, Nealey from Nealey's Auto Service, Edgewater.
Now it's Nealey Tire and Auto, by the way.
I'm sorry, it is. It's Nealey
Tire
and Auto Service. A brilliant move, by the way, to put tires in there. Man, oh man.
It works. It works.
Joe must have pounded that on you, huh?
I'm getting
someone took it out here. Someone took Sterling Tire and Auto. I'm like,
really?
Yeah, right down the street. Yeah, there's a bunch of Sterlings by me. So we'll see.
Damn. Joe Hanson from Gordie's and Sterling out in the Roseville, Michigan area. Guys, always a pleasure. The Google Nerds. It's your new moniker.
Thanks, Carm.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Carm. Appreciate it.